Daeho sat in the back row of the massive classroom and felt very small. The chair beneath him was built for creatures 3 times his size. His feet barely touched the floor. Around him, students from dozens of different worlds filled the amphitheater. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some didn't have bodies at all. Just floating clouds of light. He was one of 3 humans in the entire academy. The Interstellar Academy of Advanced Sciences floated in the void between star systems. It was built on a station called Meridian 7, where students from all over the galaxy came to learn. Daeho had won a scholarship to study here. His family back on Earth was so proud. But right now, looking at all these alien beings, he felt like he didn't belong. "Attention, students." A voice clicked and buzzed from the front of the room. Professor Velthrin walked to the center stage. The Krell instructor had 4 eyes, each one moving independently. His insect-like body was covered in shiny green armor. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together, and a translator device turned the sounds into words everyone could understand. "Today, we will discuss reaction times," Professor Velthrin announced. "This is one of the most important traits for any species. It determines who survives and who does not." A holographic display appeared in the air above the professor's head. It showed a chart with dozens of species names and numbers next to them. Daeho leaned forward to read it. "Reaction time is simple," the professor continued. "It measures how fast a being can respond to danger. How quickly can you move when something attacks? How fast can you dodge? How soon can you fight back?" The chart glowed brighter. Professor Velthrin pointed at different species with one of his long, thin arms. "The Krell, my own species, have an average reaction time of 0.8 seconds. The Saurics can react in 0.6 seconds. The mighty Titanids, despite their size, need 1.2 seconds. The Morellians require over 2 full seconds." Murmurs filled the classroom. Students whispered to each other in hundreds of different languages. The translator devices struggled to keep up. Then Professor Velthrin pointed at one line on the chart. "And here we have humans. Their documented reaction time is 0.25 seconds. The classroom went silent. Then someone laughed. It was a harsh, hissing sound. Daeho turned and saw Boran, a reptilian student from the Saurics Collective. His scales were deep red and his yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. "That must be wrong," Boran said loudly. "Humans are soft creatures. They have no claws, no armor, no venom. They are weak. How could they possibly react faster than the Saurics?" Other students joined in the laughter. A few looked at Daeho and he felt his face grow hot. He wanted to sink into his chair and disappear. "The data comes from official records," Professor Velthrin said calmly. His 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "However, I understand your skepticism. Numbers on a chart can be misleading. That is why tomorrow, we will test everyone in the laboratory. You will all have a chance to prove your species' capabilities." Bourne grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I look forward to it. It will be amusing to see the humans fail." Daeho clenched his fists but said nothing. He had learned that arguing with Boran was useless. The Sauric student was competitive about everything and hated losing. Professor Velthrin continued the lecture, explaining how different species evolved different reaction times based on their environments. Predators needed fast reflexes to catch prey. Prey needed fast reflexes to escape. Some species were both predator and prey, and they developed the fastest reactions of all. "Humans evolved on a world called Earth," the professor said. "It is a dangerous planet with many predators. Early humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but they survived. The question is how?" The hologram changed to show images of Earth. Daeho felt a pang of homesickness as he saw forests, oceans, and grasslands. He remembered running through fields near his home, playing soccer with his friends, feeling the sun on his face. "Humans use tools," Professor Velthrin explained. "They use their intelligence, but they also had something else. Something in their biology that helped them survive." A 3-dimensional model of a human nervous system appeared in the air. Daeho recognized it from his biology classes back on Earth. "The human nervous system is efficient," the professor said. "Their neural pathways are fast. Their eyes can track movement very well, and the professor paused. "Their hands are precise. They can catch things, throw things, make complex movements in fractions of a second," Boran snorted. "So they can throw rocks quickly. How impressive." A few students laughed, but others looked thoughtful. A tall Titanid in the front row raised one massive hand. "Professor, if humans are so fast, why are they not warriors? Why are they not feared throughout the galaxy?" It was a good question. Daeho wondered the same thing. Humans had only joined the galactic community 20 years ago. They were still new, still learning, still proving themselves. Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked. An excellent question. Perhaps we simply do not know humans well enough yet. Perhaps they hide their true nature. Or perhaps... The professor's eyes all focused on Deho. Perhaps they are more dangerous than they appear. The classroom fell quiet again. Every student turned to look at Deho. He felt like a specimen under a microscope. His heart pounded, but he kept his face calm. After what felt like forever, Professor Velthrin moved on to other topics. The class discussed different species and their survival strategies. Deho tried to pay attention, but his mind kept drifting to tomorrow's laboratory test. When class finally ended, students began filing out. Deho gathered his electronic tablet and headed for the door. He was almost out when he heard a familiar voice. "Deho, wait up." He turned and saw Hee-Won pushing through the crowd. She was another human student studying medicine. Her face was flushed with excitement. "Can you believe what just happened?" she asked in Korean. It felt good to hear his native language. Most students spoke through translators, but humans could talk to each other directly. "They have no idea what we can do." "Maybe that's a good thing," Deho replied, also in Korean. "Did you see how they looked at us? Some of them seemed scared." Hee-Won shook her head. "Not scared, curious, that's better. Tomorrow in the lab we can show them what humans are really capable of. What if we fail? What if the test was wrong and we're not actually that fast?" Hee-Won smiled. "Deho, have you ever tried to swat a fly?" "Of course. How often do you miss?" Deho thought about it. "Not often." "Exactly. And flies are much faster than laser pointers. If we can catch flies, we can handle whatever test they give us." Hee-Won patted his shoulder. "Don't worry. Just do your best. That's all Earth expects from us." They walked together through the curved corridors of the station. Through the windows, Deho could see the stars. Somewhere out there, far away, Earth orbited its yellow sun. His family was there. His home was there, but here, on this station, he had a job to do. He had to represent humanity. He had to show these aliens that humans belonged in the galaxy. "Hey," Hee-Won said. "Want to grab some food?" The human section of the cafeteria finally got a shipment from Earth. Real kimchi. Deho couldn't help but smile. That sounds perfect. As they walked, Deho noticed other students watching them. Some whispered behind their hands, tentacles, or whatever appendages they had. Word was spreading about tomorrow's test. Everyone wanted to see if the humans were as fast as the records claimed. Tomorrow would be interesting. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, Deho would eat kimchi and try not to think about the dozens of alien eyes that would be watching him. He would try not to think about Boren's mocking laughter. He would try not to think about the pressure of representing his entire species. Tonight he would just be Deho, a young man far from home, trying to make it in a galaxy much bigger and stranger than he ever imagined. The advanced testing facility looked like something from a science fiction movie. Deho stood at the entrance with the other students, staring at the enormous white chamber. Every surface was smooth and clean. Bright lights shone from panels in the ceiling. In the center of the room stood a circular platform surrounded by dozens of floating metal spheres. "That's the reflex measurement device," Hee-Won whispered beside him. "I read about it last night. It's never been beaten." Deho studied the machine. The metal spheres floated in the air without any visible support. They could move in any direction at any speed. Inside each sphere was a laser emitter that could fire pulses of colored light. "Welcome, students," a voice said. It sounded like crystal chimes. Instructor Nix floated into the room. The instructor was a being made of living crystal, shaped roughly like a human but glowing from within. Different colors swirled through the transparent body. "Today you will test your reaction times against the most accurate measuring device in the galaxy." More students filed into the room. There were maybe 50 altogether. Deho saw Titanids who had to duck through the doorway. He saw Morellians who left trails of slime behind them. He saw Krell with their clicking mandibles and Sorix with their gleaming scales. And he saw Boren who was grinning at him. "The test is simple," Instructor Nix explained. The colors inside the crystal body shifted to a calm blue. You stand on the platform. The device will fire laser pulses from random directions. When you see a flash of light, press the button as quickly as possible. A small white button rose from the center of the platform. The machine measures the time between the flash and your button press. It is accurate to 1,000th of a second. The difficulty will increase as you succeed. Eventually, everyone fails. This is not a contest. It is scientific measurement. Professor Velthrin stood near the doorway, his 4 eyes watching everything. He clicked his mandibles and spoke. We will proceed by species groups. Titanids first, then Morellians, then Krell, then Saurics. Humans will go last. Deho wasn't sure if that made him feel better or worse. He would have time to watch others to see how the test worked. But he would also have time to get nervous. The first Titanid stepped onto the platform. The massive being was over 3 meters tall with thick, rocky skin. Its movements were slow and deliberate. When the test began, red lasers flashed from different directions. The Titanid's large hand moved toward the button each time. 1.4 seconds, the machine announced in a flat electronic voice. Within expected parameters for Titanid species, several more Titanids took their turns. Their times ranged from 1.2 to 1.6 seconds. They didn't seem disappointed. They knew they were built for strength, not speed. The Morellians went next. These slug-like beings oozed onto the platform, leaving trails of clear mucus. They had no arms, so they pressed the button with their heads. Their times were even slower, over 2 seconds each. 2.3 seconds, the machine said for one Morellian, above average for species. Then came the Krell. Professor Velthrin watched with particular interest as members of his own species took the test. The insect-like beings were faster, their times ranging from 0.7 to 0.9 seconds. 0.73 seconds, the machine announced for one Krell student. Excellent performance, now it was time for the Saurics. Boren stepped forward eagerly, his red scales gleaming under the bright lights. He stood on the platform and flexed his claws. Begin when ready, Instructor Nick said. The laser flashed. Boren's hand shot out. His movements were quick and precise like a snake striking. 0.58 seconds, the machine announced. Exceptional performance for Sauric species. Boren stepped down with a proud grin on his reptilian face. He looked directly at Deho. Let us see if the soft humans can match that. Other Sauric students took their turns. Their times ranged from 0.6 to 0.8 seconds. They were clearly the fastest species so far. They congratulated each other with hissing sounds and tail slaps. Now the humans, Professor Velthrin said quietly. Every eye in the room turned to the 3 human students. Deho stood with Hewan and Mirai, the only other human in the facility. Mirai studied engineering and had been analyzing the machine all morning. I'll go first, Mirai said. She was taller than Deho with short hair and glasses. She stepped onto the platform with confidence. The test began. Red laser pulses flashed from the floating spheres. Mirai's hand moved in a blur. Even from where he stood, Deho could see how fast she was. 0.22 seconds, the machine said. The room went completely silent. That cannot be correct, Boren said. His voice had lost its mocking tone. The measurement is accurate, Instructor Nix replied. The colors in the crystal body shifted to purple, indicating surprise. Continue. Hewan went next. Deho watched his friend step onto the platform. She looked calm, but he knew she was nervous. They had talked late into the night about this test. The lasers flashed. Hewan moved. Her hand seemed to know where to go before her eyes finished seeing the light. 0.19 seconds, the machine announced, significantly faster than documented human average. Now the aliens were whispering loudly. Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked rapidly. Several students pulled out their tablets and started recording data. Boron's mouth hung open, showing all his sharp teeth. This is impossible, a Krell student muttered. The machine must be broken, a Saurix added. The machine is functioning perfectly, Instructor Nix said firmly. I calibrated it myself this morning. All eyes turned to Deho. He was the last human, the last student. His heart pounded in his chest, but he tried to stay calm. He remembered what his father had told him before he left Earth. You are not just representing yourself. You are representing all of humanity. Do your best. That is all anyone can ask. Deho walked to the platform. His legs felt shaky. He climbed up and stood next to the button. The metal was cool under his feet. The floating spheres moved into position around him, forming a circle. He could see the laser emitters inside each one, tiny red dots that would soon fire pulses of light. Begin when ready, Instructor Nix said. Deho took a deep breath. He focused. Everything around him seemed to slow down. He could hear his heartbeat. He could feel the air moving in the room. He could sense the anticipation from all the watching students. The first laser flashed to his left. His hand moved. He pressed the button. 0.18 seconds, the machine said. Another flash from behind. He spun and pressed. 0.17 seconds, flash. Press, flash, press. His body moved without thinking. It was like playing sports back on Earth, when everything flowed naturally and he didn't have to tell his muscles what to do. They just knew. 0.17 seconds. 0.16 seconds. 0.17 seconds. The machine increased the difficulty. The flashes came faster now from multiple directions. But Deho kept up. His eyes tracked the spheres. His hand found the button again and again. 0.15 seconds. 0.14 seconds. Impossible, Boren whispered. Professor Velthrin moved closer to the platform. All four of his eyes were focused on Deho. The machine shifted into a higher mode. The flashes came even faster now, barely a second apart. Red light pulsed from every direction. Deho's world narrowed to just the lasers and the button. Nothing else existed. 0.13 seconds. 0.12 seconds. No species has ever achieved 12/100ths of a second, Instructor Nick said. The crystal body now glowed bright white. This is extraordinary. The machine kept going. The difficulty climbed higher. The lasers flashed in patterns that seemed impossible to follow. But Deho's eyes caught them all. His hand moved in a constant blur. 0.11 seconds. 0.10 seconds. 0.09 seconds. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Students pushed forward to see better. Even the massive titanids were leaning in, their rocky faces showing surprise. Then something changed. Deho felt it before he understood it. The machine was going to fire from above. He could sense it in the way the sphere moved, in the tiny electrical hum it made before activating. His eyes were already looking up when the flash came, but his hand didn't go to the button. Instead, his arm shot straight up. His fingers passed directly through the beam of laser light, breaking it in mid-air. The machine made a sound it had never made before. A harsh electronic shriek. Error, it announced. Error. Subject intercepted stimulus cannot measure reaction time. Error. Deho stood frozen, his hand still raised. He hadn't meant to do that. His body had just moved on its own. 3 hours later, Deho was exhausted. He sat in Professor Velthrin's laboratory, surrounded by machines he didn't understand. Holographic displays covered the walls, showing images of his brain, his nervous system, his eyes. Numbers scrolled past faster than he could read them. Fascinating, Professor Velthrin muttered for the 100th time. The Krell instructor moved between displays, all four eyes looking at different screens. Absolutely fascinating. Hewan and Mireille had been scanned as well. Now all three humans sat together while alien scientists studied their results. More professors had arrived. The laboratory was crowded with Krell, Sorix, Titanids, and species Deho had never seen before. Everyone wanted to understand what made humans so fast. Look at these neural pathways, a Krell scientist said, pointing at the hologram above Deho's head. They are incredibly efficient. Information travels from the eyes to the brain to the muscles with almost no delay. But that is not the most interesting part, Professor Velthrin replied. He manipulated the hologram, zooming in on specific areas. Look here. The visual processing center. It is working faster than it should be possible. How much faster? Instructor Nix asked. The crystal being floated closer to examine the data. Approximately 40% faster than our equipment can accurately measure. The room went silent. That means, Instructor Nix said slowly, that the human is not just reacting quickly. He is processing information faster than our tools can track. Exactly. Professor Velthrin turned to face Deho. When you intercepted those laser beams, you said your body just moved on its own. Can you explain what you were experiencing? Deho thought carefully before answering. It was like I could see the future. But not really. I was watching the spheres and I noticed they moved slightly before firing. Just a tiny bit. And they made a sound, so quiet I almost couldn't hear it. My brain was putting all those small signs together and my body was reacting before the laser actually fired. Pattern recognition, Haiwan said suddenly. She stood up excited. That's what it is. Humans are really good at recognizing patterns. That's how our ancestors hunted. They didn't just react to animals. They predicted where animals would go based on tiny clues. Mireille nodded enthusiastically. And we evolved on a planet where we were both hunters and prey. We had to be fast to catch food and fast to avoid being food. So our brains developed to process threats incredibly quickly. Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked rapidly. This makes sense. Most species in the galaxy evolved as either predators or prey, but rarely both. Humans occupied a middle position. They were vulnerable but also dangerous. This would create evolutionary pressure for extremely fast reactions. But there is more, Instructor Nix added. The crystal body glowed brighter. Humans also have binocular vision. Their eyes face forward, giving them excellent depth perception, and their hands have opposable thumbs and fine motor control. They can track objects in 3 dimensions and intercept them with precision. A Sauric scientist spoke up. This is a military advantage. If humans can move this fast, they would be formidable opponents in combat. The room's atmosphere shifted. Suddenly, everyone looked uncomfortable. Several aliens glanced at the 3 humans nervously. We're not soldiers, Deho said firmly. I came here to study, not to fight. Of course, Professor Velthrin said quickly. No one is accusing you of anything. But you must understand this information could change how the galaxy views humanity. What do you mean? Ewan asked. Professor Velthrin manipulated another holographic display. It showed the official records of humanity's first contact with the galactic community. When humans first joined us, we assessed your species based on the data you provided. We classified you as a peaceful, intelligent species with moderate physical capabilities. But these tests show your data was incomplete. We didn't lie, Mirai protested. Earth sent honest information. I believe you. But humans have only been part of the galactic community for 20 years. Your people may not have fully understood your own capabilities, or perhaps they did not test extensively enough. After all, why would they? Humans on Earth do not need to compare themselves to alien species. Deho felt a growing unease. What happens now? Before Professor Velthrin could answer, the laboratory door opened. A tall, elegant being entered. She had silvery skin and moved with fluid grace. Deho recognized her as Professor Thane, the head of the biology department. I heard about the results, Professor Thane said. Her voice was musical, almost singing. This is extraordinary, but it also presents a problem. What kind of problem? Ewan asked. Professor Thane gestured and a new holographic display appeared. It showed what looked like a political map of the galaxy. Different colored regions represented different alliances and species territories. The Galactic Council maintains peace through careful balance, Professor Thane explained. Each species has their strengths. The Titanids have physical power. The Krell have advanced technology. The Saurics have speed and combat instincts. The Morellians have remarkable intelligence. Every species contributes something unique, and no single species dominates. But if humans are faster than everyone else, Mirai said slowly, understanding dawning on her face, that changes the balance. Precisely. If this information becomes widely known, some species might view humans as a threat. Others might want humans as allies or soldiers. Political tensions could arise. Deho felt his stomach sink. He had just wanted to do well on a test. He never imagined it would cause galactic political problems. There is another concern, Instructor Nix said. The Academy's testing standards may need to be revised. If humans can break our best equipment, what about other species we have not fully tested? What other capabilities exist that we have not measured? The real question, Professor Velthrin said quietly, is what do we do with this knowledge? Do we publish it? Do we keep it classified? Do we inform the Galactic Council? Everyone started talking at once. Scientists argued about the importance of sharing data. Professors debated the political implications. The 3 humans sat quietly, feeling overwhelmed. Finally, Deho stood up. Can I say something? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to him. I understand this is complicated, Deho said, but I think everyone is missing the important point. Yes, humans are fast. Yes, we can do things your machines can't measure. But that doesn't make us better than anyone else. It just makes us different. He pointed at the holographic displays. Look at all this data. My brain works fast, but it also uses a lot of energy. I get tired. I get hungry. I need to sleep. The Titanids might be slower than me, but they're 100 times stronger. The Morellians might take longer to react, but they can solve mathematical problems I can't even understand. Every species has advantages and disadvantages. One stood beside him. Deho is right. On Earth, humans aren't the strongest animals or the fastest or the biggest. But we survived by being adaptable and working together. Maybe that's what the galaxy should focus on. Not what makes each species better, but what makes each species unique. Mirai joined them. And if you're worried about military applications, don't be. Earth has strict rules about using humans as weapons. We have a long, painful history of war. We know what it costs. Most humans want peace, not conflict. Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You speak wisely for one so young. Perhaps we older beings worry too much about problems that do not exist yet. Still, Professor Thane said, the Council must be informed. This is too significant to hide. But perhaps we can control how the information is presented. We can emphasize the scientific discovery without focusing on military implications. I agree, Instructor Nick said. The crystal body glowed a gentle green, indicating approval. Knowledge should be shared, but wisdom in how we share it is also important. A Sauric scientist raised his clawed hand. What about the test recordings? Everyone in that room saw what happened. Students will talk. The information will spread regardless of what we decide. Professor Velthrin sighed. True, which means we should get ahead of the story. Tomorrow we will present our findings to the Academy's full council. The 3 humans will be there to speak for themselves and their species. Tomorrow. Deho felt a flash of panic. But I don't know what to say. Say what you just said, Professor Velthrin replied gently. Speak the truth. That is all science requires. That is all honor requires. As the meeting broke up and scientists began filing out, Deho noticed someone standing in the doorway. It was Boren. The Sauric student had been listening to everything. Their eyes met. This time Boren didn't look away. Instead, he walked over. I owe you an apology, Boren said stiffly. His translator device made the words sound formal. I mocked you and your species. I was wrong to do so. Deho didn't know what to say. He had expected continued hostility, not an apology. I was arrogant, Boren continued. I believed the Saurics were the fastest species in the galaxy. I built my identity around that belief. When you proved me wrong, I reacted poorly. That was weakness on my part, not strength. Thank you for saying that, Deho replied. And for what it's worth, you're still really fast. Faster than most humans would be, probably. I just got lucky. It was not luck. It was capability. Boran's scales shifted to a deeper red. Deho stood on the platform with his hands still in the air. His fingers tingled where they had passed through the laser beam. The machine continued to emit error sounds and red warning lights flashed from every floating sphere. What just happened? Professor Velthrin demanded. All 4 of his eyes were fixed on Deho. Instructor Nix floated closer to the platform. The crystal body pulsed with rapid color changes, flashing between red, blue, and yellow. The human intercepted the stimulus before the measurement could complete. In 300 cycles of operation, this has never occurred. Perhaps the machine malfunctioned, Boren said hopefully, but his voice lacked confidence now. The machine did not malfunction, Instructor Nix replied sharply. The human moved faster than the system's ability to measure. He did not react to the laser. He caught it. The room filled with whispers. Students from every species spoke in their own languages. The translator devices worked overtime, turning the babble of sounds into understandable words. Confusion, disbelief, wonder, fear. Deho slowly lowered his hand. He looked at Hiwan and Mirai. They stared back at him with wide eyes. Mirai's mouth hung open in shock. Hiwan looked like she wanted to cheer but was too stunned to make a sound. Can we continue the test? Deho asked quietly. Instructor Nix's colors settled into a deep purple. Yes, let us see if that was coincidence or capability. The machine reset itself. The error sound stopped. The warning lights faded. The floating spheres returned to their positions around Deho. But now they moved differently, more cautiously, as if the machine itself had become uncertain. Activating extreme difficulty mode, the machine announced. This setting has never been used in standard testing. Wait, Professor Velthrin said. That mode is theoretical. It is meant to test AI response times, not living beings. The human has exceeded normal parameters, Instructor Nix replied. We must know his limits. Deho felt his heart racing again. He wiped his palms on his pants. They were sweating. He could feel dozens of alien eyes watching him, waiting to see if he would fail or succeed. The test began again. This time, the lasers fired in rapid bursts. Red, blue, green, yellow. They came from every direction at once, sometimes 3 or 4 at the same time. The flashes were so fast they looked almost like a solid stream of light. Daeho's mind went quiet. All the nervousness disappeared. He stopped thinking about the watching aliens, about representing humanity, about proving himself. There was only the light and his body moving to meet it. His hand shot out again and again. Each time his fingers found the laser beam itself rather than the button. He was no longer reacting. He was predicting. He could see the tiny movements of the spheres before they fired. He could hear the faint electrical charge building up. His body knew where the next flash would come from before it happened. The machine tried to compensate. It randomized the patterns. It varied the timing. It fired from blind spots. But Daeho intercepted every single pulse. Error. Error. Error, the machine repeated. Each time his fingers broke a beam, the system registered another impossible result. Reaction time below measurable threshold. Cannot compute, cannot compute. Daeho intercepted a laser from directly behind him without even turning around. His hand simply reached back and the beam passed through his fingers. A titanid made a sound like grinding rocks. A Morellian slime trail turned bright blue, indicating extreme emotion. The Krell students clicked their mandibles so fast it sounded like rattling bones. Professor Velthrin stepped forward, his four eyes wider than Daeho had ever seen them. Stop the test. But we haven't reached his limit yet, Instructor Nix protested. Stop the test. Professor Velthrin's voice was firm. We are not here to break students. We are here to measure them, and this, he gestured at Daeho. This is beyond our ability to measure. The machine powered down. The floating spheres settled toward the floor, their lights dimming. Daeho stood alone on the platform, breathing hard. His heart pounded. Sweat dripped down his face. His muscles ached, but he felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. How did you do that? Mirai asked in Korean. She rushed forward as Daeho climbed down from the platform. That was incredible. You were catching light. I don't know, Daeho replied honestly, also in Korean. My body just moved. It was like I could see where the lasers would fire before they did. Hee-Wan joined them. Your eyes, she said quietly. I was watching your eyes. They were tracking the spheres, not the light. You were reading the machine. Before Daeho could respond, Boran pushed through the crowd. The Sork student's face was difficult to read, but his scales had paled to a light pink. You cheated somehow. How could I cheat? Daeho asked tiredly. He was exhausted from the test. Everyone was watching. The machine is controlled by Instructor Nix. Then the machine is broken. There is no other explanation. The machine is not broken, Instructor Nix said coldly. The crystal body turned red, indicating anger. Do not insult my equipment or my integrity. What we witnessed was simply a capability we did not expect. Professor Velthrin approached Daeho. The Krell instructor moved slowly, his four eyes studying the human carefully. Daeho, I must ask you to come with me to my laboratory. I need to run more tests. This is not punishment, he added quickly. This is scientific inquiry. You have shown us something remarkable, and we must understand it. Will I get in trouble? Daeho asked. Trouble? No. You have done nothing wrong, but you have certainly done something extraordinary. Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked in a pattern that the translator identified as thoughtfulness. In all my years of teaching, I have never seen anything like this. The council must be informed. Other professors must witness this, and we must understand how and why you can do this. Daeho looked at Hee-Wan and Mirai. They both nodded encouragingly. Okay, he said. I'll help however I can. Excellent. Hee-Wan, Mirai, you will accompany us as well. If this is a human trait rather than an individual trait, we need to understand the scope. As they left the testing facility, Daeho looked back at the reflex measurement device. The machine sat silent and dark. For 300 cycles, it had measured the reaction times of thousands of students. It had never failed. It had never encountered something it couldn't quantify. Until today. The walk through the station's corridors felt strange. Word had already spread about what happened in the testing facility. Students stopped to stare as the three humans passed by. Some whispered. Some pointed. A few moved out of the way as if afraid. This is weird, Mirai muttered in Korean. Yesterday nobody paid attention to us. Now they're treating us like we're dangerous. Are we dangerous? Daeho asked. Hye-Wen frowned. We're just people. Fast people, apparently. But still just people. Professor Velthrin's laboratory was in the science wing of the station. The doors opened to reveal a large room filled with equipment Deho didn't recognize. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing complex diagrams and scrolling data. Several other Krell scientists worked at various stations. They all stopped when Professor Velthrin entered with the three humans. "I need the neurological scanner," Professor Velthrin announced. "And contact Professor Thane from the biology department. Tell her to bring her equipment. We have a remarkable discovery." One of the other Krell scientists approached. "What is it?" "What discovery?" Professor Velthrin's four eyes gleamed. "These humans can move faster than our best equipment can measure." One of them intercepted light itself. Multiple times. The other scientist's mandibles dropped open. "That's impossible." "That's what I thought as well. But I witnessed it. We all did, and now we must understand it." Deho sat in a chair that adjusted itself to his smaller human size. Hywan and Mireille sat nearby, the laboratory filled with more professors and scientists, all wanting to see the humans who had broken the unbreakable machine. Instructor Nix floated in last, the crystal body now a calm blue again. "I have reviewed the recording from the testing facility. The human's hand moved at velocities approaching professional combat athletes from the most advanced species, but more remarkably, his eyes tracked the laser emitters an average of 0.05 seconds before they fired." "He was predicting," Professor Velthrin said. "Not just predicting, reading, processing, computing, all faster than should be possible for a biological brain." A holographic display appeared above Deho's head. It showed a three-dimensional model of a human brain with colored areas lighting up in different patterns. "We will scan your brain while you perform simple reaction tasks," Professor Velthrin explained to Deho. "Do not worry. It does not hurt. We simply want to see what happens inside your mind when you move so quickly." "Will this help you understand?" Deho asked. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it will simply give us more questions." Professor Velthrin's mandibles clicked softly. Science is often like that. One answer leads to 10 new mysteries. As the scientists prepared their equipment, Deho caught Boran watching from the doorway. The Sauric student's expression was no longer mocking. Instead, he looked thoughtful and maybe a little scared. Their eyes met for a moment. Then Boran turned and walked away. Deho wondered what would happen next. The test was over, but somehow he felt like everything was just beginning. The Grand Council chamber was the largest room Deho had ever seen. The ceiling arched high above, showing a projection of the galaxy itself. Stars swirled and glowed in the darkness. Hundreds of seats formed a semicircle around a central platform where speakers stood. Deho stood on that platform now. His hands were sweating. His heart pounded so loud he was sure everyone could hear it. Beside him stood Hywan and Mireille, both looking nervous but determined. In the seats around them sat representatives from dozens of galactic civilizations. Some were familiar species from the Academy, others were strange and alien, beings Deho had only seen in pictures. All of them were here to discuss the same question: what should be done about the humans? Professor Velthrin stood at a control panel to the side. "Honored council members," the Krell instructor began. "1 week ago, we conducted routine reaction time testing at the Academy. The results were extraordinary and require your attention." Holographic displays appeared in the air. They showed the video recordings from the testing facility. The council watched in silence as Deho intercepted laser beams mid-flight. They watched as the machine declared errors. They watched as 3 humans performed beyond any previously recorded measurements. When the videos ended, the chamber erupted in voices. Dozens of species spoke at once in their own languages. The translator devices struggled to keep up. Deho caught fragments of the conversation. "Remarkable. Impossible. Dangerous. Fascinating." A massive titanid stood. The being's rocky body creaked as it moved. "This changes everything. If humans can move this fast, they could dominate combat situations. They could become the galaxy's greatest warriors, a floating Morellian pulsed with bioluminescent light. Or they could be our greatest scientists. Imagine what they could accomplish if their brains process information so quickly," a Saurix representative hissed. "Or they could be threats. Fast enough to strike before we can defend ourselves." "Enough." A commanding voice silenced the room. An elegant being stood. She was tall and slim with skin that seemed to be made of liquid silver. Deho recognized her as Counselor Rena, the head of the Galactic Council. We will discuss this rationally. First, let us hear from the humans themselves. Counselor Rena gestured to Deho. Young one, step forward. Deho's legs felt like they might collapse, but he walked to the center of the platform. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid. Some looked calculating, as if trying to figure out how to use him. Tell us, Counselor Rena said gently. In your own words, what happened? Deho took a deep breath. I took a test. I did my best. That's all. But your best exceeded all known limits. How? I don't know exactly. My body just moved. I watched the machine and saw patterns. I predicted where the lasers would fire before they did. It wasn't magic or special technology. It was just instinct, I guess. A small furry being stood up. Can all humans do this? Deho looked at Hewan and Mireille. We're all different. But yes, I think most humans could react quickly if they trained. We evolved that way. Another council member spoke. Why did Earth not inform us of these capabilities during first contact? Mireille stepped forward to answer. Because on Earth, this is normal. We didn't think it was special. Humans catch balls thrown at high speeds. We play sports that require split-second timing. We hunt animals faster than ourselves. To us, these are everyday activities. We had no idea other species couldn't do the same things. Professor Velthrin added, the humans are correct. When species live alone on their worlds, they have no frame of reference. Earth's data was honest but incomplete because humans simply did not know they were unusual. What about military applications? The Saurix representative demanded. Surely Earth's military forces know how dangerous humans could be in combat. Hayewan spoke up. Earth's military exists to defend our planet, not to attack others. We have strict laws about warfare. After centuries of fighting each other, humans learned that war causes more problems than it solves. Most people on Earth want peace, but not all, a voice said from the shadows. A species Deho didn't recognize spoke. What about criminals? Terrorists? What if fast-reacting humans use their abilities for evil? Deho felt a flash of anger. The same could be said about any species. Strong species could use their strength for evil. Smart species could use their intelligence for evil. Being fast doesn't make humans more or less moral than anyone else. Counselor Rena raised a hand for silence. The young human speaks wisely. Let us not judge an entire species based on fear of what they might do. Judge them on what they have done. She manipulated a control and new displays appeared. They showed Earth's history of contact with the galaxy. 20 years of peaceful trade, 20 years of cooperation, 20 years of humans proving they could be trusted. In 2 decades, Counselor Rena continued, humans have caused no wars. They have broken no treaties. They have been good galactic citizens. Should we punish them now for possessing abilities we did not know about? A Krell counselor stood. Perhaps not punish, but regulate. Should humans be restricted from certain professions? Security forces, military positions, competitive sports where their speed gives unfair advantage? No. Deho surprised himself with how firm his voice sounded. That's not fair. Every species has natural advantages. The Titanids are stronger than everyone else, but they're allowed to work in construction. The Morellians are smarter than most species, but they're allowed to be teachers and scientists. Why should humans be treated differently? Because you scared us, someone said honestly. It was a small, bird-like being. When we saw you catch light itself, we became afraid. Fear makes people do foolish things. Deho softened his tone. I understand being scared. But I'm not scary. Look at me. He spread his arms. I'm small. I'm young. I'm far from home and trying to learn. I'm not a warrior or a threat. I'm just a student, Hewan joined him. We're all just students. We came to the academy to learn from other species, not to dominate them. Fast reflexes are useful for many things. We could be doctors who react quickly in emergencies. We could be pilots who avoid accidents. We could be researchers who run fast experiments. Why assume the worst? The chamber fell quiet. Deho could see council members thinking, reconsidering their initial reactions. Boren stood up from where he had been sitting in the visitor section. May I speak? Counselor Rena nodded. The floor recognizes Boran of the Saurix Collective. I was there in the testing facility, Boren said. I witnessed everything. At first I reacted with hostility. I was jealous and afraid. But then I spoke with the humans. I learned they are not so different from us. They feel pride in their abilities, yes, but they also feel responsibility. They want to use their gifts wisely. He looked directly at Deho. I challenged one of them to prove himself, and he did. But he did not gloat. He did not mock those of us who were slower. Instead, he explained that every species has different strengths. He showed humility. That is not the behavior of a threat. That is the behavior of someone worth trusting. More council members began nodding. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Fear slowly transformed into cautious acceptance. Professor Velthrin spoke again. I propose the following. We acknowledge human capabilities officially. We update our scientific records. We redesign testing equipment to accommodate wider ranges of abilities. But we do not restrict humans from any professions or activities. We treat them as we treat all species, with respect and equal opportunity. I second this proposal, Instructor Nick said. The crystal being's body glowed a warm gold. And I suggest we establish ongoing studies of all species. Perhaps there are other capabilities we have not measured properly. The humans have taught us that our knowledge is incomplete. Let us embrace that lesson and learn more about all of us. Councillor Renna called for a vote. One by one, council members indicated their approval. Not everyone voted yes. Some species remained concerned, but the majority supported Professor Velthrin's proposal. It is decided, Councillor Renna announced. Humans are granted full status in all galactic institutions. Their abilities will be acknowledged but not feared. They will be welcomed as equals. Deho felt a wave of relief so strong his knees almost buckled. Hiwon grabbed his arm to steady him. Mireille was crying happy tears. However, Councillor Renna continued, we do have one request of Earth. We ask that your people share more detailed information about human capabilities. Help us understand you better. Help us design better equipment and tests. Help us learn. I'm sure Earth would be happy to cooperate, Daiho said. He hoped that was true. He would have to send a message home explaining everything that had happened. As the council meeting adjourned, aliens began approaching the three humans. Not with fear or hostility, but with genuine curiosity. A Morellian asked if humans would be interested in collaborative research. A Titanid invited them to join a sports league. A Krell student wanted to know if humans could teach reaction time training. Walking through the academy corridors later, Deho felt like he was floating. Other students greeted them now, not with awe or fear, but with friendly respect. The three humans had become part of the community, not threats to it. They stopped at a massive viewport that looked out into space. Stars stretched in every direction. Somewhere out there,